Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to do something I think is incredibly powerful. We're going to take one of the most practical phrases you'll ever need in Mandarin, and we're going to tear it down to its very foundation. We're talking about asking for directions, and you'll see that by taking this one little phrase apart, we're going to unlock a much, much deeper understanding of the language's structure, its internal logic, and, of course, the cultural nuances that make it all tick. All right, so let's set the stage with a very real scenario. I want you to really picture this. You've just arrived, you're standing on a busy street corner, maybe in Shanghai, maybe in Kaohsiung. You're a little lost, a little overwhelmed, and you desperately need to find the train station. Now, this isn't just some classroom exercise, right? For any of you who plan to travel or study abroad, this is a moment you will almost certainly experience. So how do you do it? How do you actually bridge that communication gap and get the help you need? Well, this sentence right here, this is your golden key. 请问火车站怎么走? At its surface, it translates to, excuse me, how do I get to the train station? Simple enough. But to truly master this, to really own it, we can't just memorize it like a parrot. No, we need to become linguistic surgeons. We have to take it apart, piece by piece, and understand why it's built this way. So let's get started. Okay, our first point of focus is going to be the absolute core of the question, 怎么走? This little three-character phrase is really the engine of the entire sentence. It literally translates to how to go or how to walk. If we can understand this part first, building out the full polite question becomes so much easier. Now, here's what's so fascinating about learning a language like Mandarin. Understanding the individual components, the characters, illuminates the meaning of the whole phrase in a way that just doesn't happen in English. True language learning isn't about just memorizing flashcards. It's more like linguistic archaeology, digging into each character to uncover the story and the logic that's been baked into it for centuries. All right, let's begin that archaeological dig. We're going to examine each of the three characters in our core phrase, 怎么走, to see what they reveal about how questions are built in Mandarin. And we'll start, naturally, with the first one, 怎. So this character, 怎, means how. But don't just look at the meaning. Look at its structure. It's made of two distinct parts. On top, you have zha, which can mean suddenly. And on the bottom, you have 心, the character for heart or mind. Isn't that beautiful? You can almost read it like a little poem, a sudden question or a moment of confusion that just pops up in the mind. The mind is wondering, how? This kind of etymology gives such a rich depth to what seems like a simple question word. Next up, we have m. Now, this little guy rarely ever stands alone. It's best to think of it as a grammatical sidekick. It loves to attach itself to other characters to create question words. You've probably already seen it paired with shama to make shunma, which, as you know, means what. So here it's doing the same job, just partnering up with zun to form zunma, our word for how. It's a really critical piece of functional grammar for asking questions. And rounding out our trio, we have zol. This character is a fantastic example of a pictograph. Its ancient form is basically a stick figure of a person walking or even running. It literally means to walk or to go on foot. So when you ask the zol, you are quite literally asking, how does one walk there? And here's an interesting point. This is the standard verb you use for directions, even if the place is miles away and you'd obviously need a bus or a taxi. It's the default how to get there verb. So now we have our building blocks, right? We've got 怎么 for how and 走 for to go. The next big question is about the architecture. How do we assemble these pieces with our location, in this case, 火车站, the train station, to build a proper, natural-sounding sentence? This is where we get to see the really unique and logical structure of Mandarin grammar at work. And this slide right here illustrates a fundamental difference between English and Mandarin. Just look at the order. In English, we start with the question machinery. How do I get to? And then we name our destination. Mandarin, though, very often uses something called a topic-comment structure. It flips it around. And this is a hugely important point. In Mandarin, you first state the topic of your conversation. You put it on the table for everyone to see. So you say, 火车站, the train station. That's our topic. Then, and only then, do you make your comment or ask your question about that established topic. 怎么走, how to go. This topic-first principle is a cornerstone of Mandarin syntax. Once you get the hang of it, you'll start seeing it everywhere, and it's absolutely key to sounding natural. Okay, so knowing the right words and the right grammar is obviously crucial, but It's only half the battle. If you can't pronounce them in a way that people can understand, it's all for nothing. Remember, tones in Mandarin are not optional decoration. They are a fundamental part of a word's meaning. So let's really roll up our sleeves and spend a few minutes refining our pronunciation. Let's listen to the rhythm and flow of this little conversation. First, I'll say it at a normal, natural speed. 请问火车站怎么走? And a very common, simple answer might be something like 一直走, which means go straight. Okay, now let's slow it way, way down. I want you to listen for the melody, the music that the tones create. 请问火车站怎么走? That up and down melody is just as important as the consonants and vowels. Now let's tackle a few common pitfalls for English speakers. First up, that initial z sound in both zen and zo. It is not the buzzing z from the English word zoo. It's what we call an unaspirated consonant. To make it, put the very tip of your tongue right behind your top front teeth and try to say dis. There should be no vibration in your throat. Next, the ow vowel sound in zo. This is a diphthong, meaning it's a glide. You have to move smoothly from the o sound into the oo sound. O, oo. Don't say them as two separate vowels. And finally, and this is a big one, the third tone on zen. It's a dipping tone. You can't just say it low and flat. It has to go down and then come back up. Think of the shape of a check mark or a little scoop. Let's try it. Zen, zen. So far, we have the words, we have the grammar, and we have the pronunciation. But here's the thing. Language does not exist in a vacuum. It's a tool for human interaction, and every single interaction is governed by cultural norms and expectations. Knowing what to say is one thing. Knowing how to engage with another person in a culturally appropriate way is a completely different skill, and it is absolutely vital for communicating effectively, especially when you are a guest in another culture. We can actually break down the social etiquette of this interaction, this little dance, into 4 clear steps: the approach, the question, the response, and finally, gratitude. And I want to be clear. Failing to observe these steps isn't just a minor faux pas. It can mark you as impolite or uncultured, and it might make people less willing to help you. This isn't just about please and thank you. It's about navigating a social landscape that really prioritizes harmony and mutual respect. So, step 1 is the approach. You never, and I mean never, just walk up to a stranger and blurt out your question. You absolutely must begin with a polite opener. 请问 literally means may I ask, and 不好意思 is a wonderful phrase that means something like excuse me or sorry to bother you. This initial sign of respect is simply non-negotiable. It signals that you recognize you're taking up their time, and it shows deference, which gives the other person face, 面子, a foundational concept in Chinese culture. Now for steps 2 and 3. You'll state your question as clearly as you can, and then you need to listen with your eyes as much as your ears. Pay very close attention to nonverbal communication. It is incredibly common for people to respond not just with words, but with very expressive hand gestures, pointing emphatically, waving you forward, making a turning motion with their hand. These gestures are not just an afterthought. A lot of the time, they are the clearest and most important part of the directions you're going to get. And finally, we have step 4, gratitude. This is crucial. It doesn't matter if the person knew the answer or not. It doesn't matter if they were friendly or seemed rushed. You always conclude the interaction with a sincere 谢谢. Thanking them acknowledges their time and their effort. It essentially completes the circle of a polite social exchange and restores the social harmony that you briefly interrupted with your question. To just walk away without saying thank you is considered incredibly rude. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I hope you can see how this one simple, incredibly practical phrase, how do I get to the train station, has really served as a window for us. Through this single window, we've been able to peek inside and see the logic of character formation, the topic-comment structure of Mandarin grammar, the phonetic challenges of tones, and of course, the unspoken rules of cultural etiquette that really values social harmony. This method, this deconstruction, is such a powerful tool for your learning. So I want to leave you with a question to think about. As you continue your studies, what other seemingly simple phrases, like ordering a coffee or greeting a professor, can you break down in this same way? What other keys to the broader language and the culture do they hold? Because I promise you, applying this kind of analytical lens will transform you from someone who just memorizes phrases into a true linguistic explorer.